Welcome everyone and thank you so much for joining today's video on our channel where we explore the fascinating world of rare coins, numismatics, and the incredible stories behind small pieces of metal that can carry staggering values. And today we're diving into one of the most intriguing and exciting examples that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. The mysterious and highly valuable 1999 1-cent coin, a humble penny that in ordinary circumstances would be passed over without a thought, but in certain very rare era versions it has become worth as much as $7 million, and we're going to explore in immense detail exactly why, how, and under what strange set of circumstances such a seemingly insignificant object could ascend to legendary heights of value. So buckle in because this story is about much more than just a coin, it's about mistakes, chance, rarity, the thrill of discovery, and the possibilities that make collectors scour their pocket change hoping to find a fortune hiding in plain sight. And to begin this deep dive we need to set the stage by remembering that the penny, officially known as the Lincoln cent, has been produced in enormous numbers since 1909, with billions struck each year, making them one of the most common coins in American circulation. So at first glance the idea that any single cent could be worth millions seems absurd, yet in the world of coin collecting the market is driven by rarity and desirability, and nothing creates rarity quite like an error, especially when it is dramatic, unusual, and difficult to explain, and that is exactly what has happened with the 1999 1-cent errors, because during that year several fascinating mistakes slipped past the mint's rigorous quality controls, ranging from double strikes, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, and the most famous and dramatic of all, the 1999 Lincoln cent struck with a reverse dime meant for the Roosevelt dime, creating what is known as a mule error. And for those unfamiliar, a mule error is when two coin dies that were never intended to be paired together are accidentally combined, resulting in a coin that features designs from two different denominations. And these mule errors are so spectacularly rare that they immediately skyrocket in value, with examples known from other years bringing hundreds of thousands and in some cases millions of dollars at auction, and the 1999 cent mule errors are among the most legendary because the idea that a penny could have the Lincoln obverse with the wrong reverse is so bizarre that it captures the imagination of everyone who hears the story. Now the value of $7 million attached to some of these specimens is not simply because of the error alone, but also because of condition, provenance, and the fierce competition among high-end collectors who want to own a piece of numismatic history. And when you put together extreme rarity, a spectacular blunder, and collector demand, you get astronomical prices that make headlines. And while many people assume that the U.S. Mint's processes are flawless, the truth is that with billions of coins struck every year there are always possibilities for mistakes, and the 1999 pennies give us a perfect case study of what can happen when human oversight, mechanical misalignment, or the mixing of dies goes wrong. And what's remarkable is that the errors from that year span a wide variety, from dramatic double denominations to more subtle but still valuable die clashes, die breaks, and off-metal strikes. And each category deserves to be understood in detail because even the smallest variation can mean the difference between a coin being worth a cent and one being worth thousands or even millions. So let's begin with the mule error, the most famous of the group, where collectors discovered a 1999 Lincoln cent that had been struck with the obverse of Lincoln as normal, but instead of the familiar Lincoln memorial on the reverse, the coin displayed the reverse of a Roosevelt dime. And this shocking anomaly set the numismatic community on fire, with experts confirming its authenticity and collectors lining up to bid extraordinary amounts. And one of these examples later sold for millions, cementing the legend of the 1999 cent. But that's not the only error from that year, because there were also double-struck coins where the penny was hit twice in the press, creating overlapping designs that are visually stunning and highly desirable. And then there are off-center strikes where the design is only partially on the coin, leaving blank spaces that clearly show the mishap at the mint. And then even more subtle are die clashes, where the two dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of the opposite design on the coin's surfaces. And some 1999 cents exhibit dramatic clashes that are visible even without magnification, which makes them appealing to collectors. Then we also have die cracks, chips, and cuds, where the die itself breaks down and leaves raised blobs or missing portions of design on the coin. And while these may not reach million-dollar valuations, the fact that they come from the same year as the mule error has led many collectors to chase all 1999 errors as part of a set, increasing demand. Now one might ask how such an error as the mule could even occur, and the answer lies in the complexity of the minting process, because dies are constantly being replaced and switched out during production, and on rare occasions the wrong die is installed into a press, creating a mismatched pair. And when a batch of coins is struck before the mistake is caught, the resulting pieces become numismatic treasures, and considering that billions of coins are made each year, the probability of a mule happening is almost microscopic. Which is why they are so astonishingly rare, and when rarity meets desirability, values soar, and this explains why a 1999 penny could reach $7 million, because the combination of a Lincoln obverse and dime reverse is unprecedented, dramatic, and so limited in surviving specimens that wealthy collectors are willing to pay staggering sums. And this is where the human fascination with mistakes comes in, because while perfection is expected, it is the imperfection, the flaw, the deviation from the norm that captures our imagination and makes us place extraordinary value on what is essentially a mint accident. And so the story of the 1999 cent is not only about coins but about human psychology, about how rarity, storytelling, and the thrill of the hunt can elevate something as humble as a penny into a piece of art and history worth millions. And beyond the mule, there are also transitional errors that collectors speculate might exist for 1999, because sometimes blanks from other years or metals end up being struck, and while no confirmed metal strikes for the 1999 cent have been authenticated, the possibility itself excites collectors and drives people to search through their coins in the hopes of finding one. And this is what fuels the culture of treasure hunting with pocket change, because the idea that a simple cent might actually be worth millions is irresistible. And every time stories like this make headlines, people empty their jars of pennies, magnifying glasses in hand, looking for that elusive fortune. And what's fascinating is that the $7 million value is not a random figure but based on real auction dynamics where collectors with deep pockets bid against each other. And when you have only one or two known examples of a coin, the sky truly is the limit, because there is no standard price guide that can capture what someone is willing to pay for uniqueness. And the 1999 penny errors illustrate this better than almost any other modern coin. And the story does not end there, because each time such a discovery is publicized, the numismatic world debates, investigates, and documents the errors, publishing detailed reports that become part of the coin's legacy, ensuring that the 1999 errors will be remembered for generations, and in fact, they now occupy a special place in coin history, standing alongside famous rarities like the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, and the 1933 double eagle, because each represents a perfect storm of error, rarity, and collector demand, and each has shown that even the smallest coin can become a treasure beyond imagination. And so as we reflect on the 1999 cent, it is important to understand not only the mechanics of how it came to be but also the broader cultural and economic forces that give it such immense value, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a story, a piece of history. A tangible mistake that should never have existed but somehow slipped into the world, and that paradox, that rarity born from imperfection, is what makes coins like the 1999 cent so endlessly fascinating. So next time you hold a penny, remember that while most are just worth 1 cent, a tiny handful might carry secrets that could change your life. And the thrill of that possibility is what keeps collectors searching, dreaming. And now we move from the legend of the 1999 cent to another astonishing chapter in numismatic history, the 1994 1-cent coin, which under very specific and rare circumstances has been valued at as much as $6 million. And just like before, this is not about any ordinary penny you might find in circulation but about the errors, the mishaps. The mysteries of the minting process that transformed a 1-cent piece into something that collectors and investors view as priceless, and to understand why a 1994 penny could be worth such a staggering amount, we need to go deep into the world of minting mistakes, anomalies, and rarity. Because the 1994 cents came at a time when billions of pennies were being struck each year with copper-plated zinc planchets, and the sheer volume of production meant that although quality controls were strict, there was always the possibility of accidents slipping through, and in 1994 those accidents created coins that numismatists still talk about to this day, with the most dramatic being mule errors, double denominations, and off-metal strikes, each of which can skyrocket in value, and the $6 million valuation attached to the 1994 cent comes from a confirmed mule error where a Lincoln cent obverse was struck with a reverse die intended for another denomination, and the resulting coin was so unusual, so visually shocking, that it sent shockwaves through the collecting world, and while only a handful of these errors are known, their scarcity combined with collector demand created an atmosphere of bidding wars and record prices at auction, driving the value into the millions. And it's not just the mule that makes 1994 pennies fascinating, because that year also produced double-struck cents where the coin was struck once correctly, and then again at an offset, leaving overlapping portraits of Lincoln and doubled reverses that look surreal and mesmerizing. And these coins, depending on the severity of the doubling and their condition, can fetch thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. But when you add the fact that they come from the same year as the fabled mule, their desirability increases even more. And beyond that, we also see dramatic off-center strikes from 1994, where the design is pushed so far to one side that blank metal shows on the coin, which for collectors is physical proof of a minting mistake and a reminder that even in a system designed for perfection, accidents are inevitable. And then there are transitional and off-metal errors from 1994, where in extremely rare cases a Lincoln cent design was struck on a blank meant for another denomination or composition, such as a dime or foreign coin planchet, and when authenticated these can command extraordinary premiums because they represent freak accidents that never should have happened. And the most famous among them are the ones that combine the Lincoln obverse with the wrong metal blank, creating coins with the wrong weight and color, and collectors go wild for these, knowing that only a tiny handful exist. And all of this brings us back to the psychology of why such coins can be worth $6 million, because in numismatics rarity is king, and when rarity is paired with drama and a strong story, values can reach heights that defy logic. And the 1994 penny provides exactly that, a dramatic mistake, a once-in-a-lifetime rarity, and a story that captures the imagination of everyone who hears it, because after all, what could be more fascinating than the idea that a tiny piece of pocket change could hold enough value to buy a mansion, a yacht, or a lifetime of security? And this is why collectors scour through jars, rolls, and boxes of pennies, because the possibility, however remote, that one might discover a $6,001,994 penny is irresistible. And every time these stories surface in the news, it ignites a fresh wave of treasure hunting across the country, with people checking their coins more carefully, studying mint errors, and learning to recognize the signs of a valuable piece. And to appreciate the 1994 cent fully, we need to consider the mechanics of how such errors happen, because the minting process involves feeding blank planchets into presses where dies strike both sides simultaneously with tremendous force. And when a wrong die or wrong blank is introduced, or when alignment goes awry, the resulting coin is unlike anything intended, and because the mint quickly removes most errors, those that escape are vanishingly rare, sometimes only 1 or 2 specimens ever surviving, which is what gives them astronomical value. And this is exactly the case with the $6,001,994 cent, which survives as both a testament to human error and a treasure that collectors dream of owning. And beyond its market price, it also represents a piece of American history, a reminder of how even in the most industrialized and carefully controlled processes, mistakes happen, and those mistakes can become legends. And so the 1994 cent stands proudly alongside the great rarities of numismatics, alongside the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, the 1933 double eagle, and the 1999 mule cent, forming part of the pantheon of coins whose stories will be told and retold for generations. And what's remarkable is that each new discovery fuels speculation about what other treasures might still be out there undiscovered, sitting quietly in someone's change jar, waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize them. And that is the enduring magic of coins like the 1994 cent. They remind us that hidden wealth, hidden stories, and hidden pieces of history can exist in the most ordinary of places, waiting to be uncovered, and as long as that possibility remains, the hunt will continue, the legends will grow, and the values of these coins will keep soaring, ensuring that the 1994 1 cent worth $6 million will forever be a symbol of numismatic wonder and the extraordinary value that can come from mistakes. And as we continue this fascinating exploration into the legendary coins that transformed from ordinary pocket change into multimillion-dollar rarities, the story of the 1994 1 cent worth $6 million opens the door to an even deeper understanding of how such miracles of numismatics come into existence, and why they capture the collective imagination of both seasoned collectors and casual treasure hunters, because beyond the spectacular mule errors and dramatic double strikes lies an entire universe of subtle variations, accidental anomalies, and mechanical quirks that all contribute to the mystique of these coins. And in the case of the 1994 penny, many experts have noted that this year was particularly prone to unusual die clashes and planchet misfeeds, leading to some of the most striking error coins in modern U.S. history. And while not every example commands millions, the simple fact that 1994 became known for these mistakes has elevated the reputation of the entire year's mintage, meaning that even small errors from that year are scrutinized with extra care, because collectors always hold out hope that a previously undiscovered $6 million treasure might be hiding among them. And this atmosphere of heightened attention creates a ripple effect where the mystique of the $6 million penny spills over into all other 1994 errors, raising their values and making them highly sought after at auction. And when we examine how such a valuable coin could slip through the cracks, we uncover the reality that the minting process, while highly industrialized, is still vulnerable to small lapses. And now, as we move forward in this incredible journey through the world of rare and error coins that have transformed from small everyday objects into breathtaking treasures, our attention turns to another fascinating piece of numismatic history, the 2001 D1 cent, a coin minted in Denver that under extraordinary circumstances has achieved values as high as $4 million. And much like the famous rarities we have already discussed, this story is not about any ordinary penny struck in 2001, because billions of those were produced and still circulate today with no value beyond face, but rather about a very specific group of errors and anomalies that set certain 2001 D cents apart, elevating them from the mundane into the extraordinary. And what makes this particular year and mint mark so intriguing is that the Denver Mint, known for its massive production runs, occasionally produced some of the most spectacular and dramatic mistakes in modern history, and among them the 2001 D Lincoln cent stands out for its unique blend of mule errors, off-metal strikes, and striking misalignments that have captivated collectors worldwide. And to understand why one of these could ever be worth $4 million, we need to break down exactly what happened at the mint, and why the coins that survived are so impossibly rare. Because in one of the most famous cases, a 2001 D Lincoln cent obverse was accidentally paired with the reverse die of a Roosevelt dime, creating a mule error that instantly became legendary. And when authenticated by top grading services, this coin was recognized as one of the most spectacular U.S. mint blunders of the modern era, and its rarity drove collectors into a frenzy, pushing its valuation to multiple millions. And while not all errors from 2001 D achieved such astronomical figures, the handful of confirmed mule cents are the stars of the show, because they combine rarity, dramatic visual appeal, and an unforgettable story, all the key ingredients for a coin that transcends its humble origins. And beyond the mule errors, the 2001 D cents also produced examples of off-metal strikes, where Lincoln cent dies were struck on dime planchets, nickel planchets, or even foreign coin blanks, resulting in coins with unusual weights, colors, and appearances that collectors adore, and because they are so scarce. These off-metal pieces too can fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars, adding to the legend of the 2001D, and then we must also consider the spectacular double-struck and off-center coins from this year, with examples where Lincoln's portrait appears twice or shifted so far that blank metal shows on the planchet, and while these may not command millions, they are still highly prized, especially when they come from the same mint and year as the famous mule, because collectors love building thematic sets, and the Denver Mint itself adds another layer of intrigue, because historically its coins often show stronger strikes, but also occasionally yield the most dramatic and collectible errors, and the 2001D penny is a shining example of how a tiny oversight in the minting process can create a coin that not only escapes detection but also survives long enough to enter circulation or collector hands, eventually to be recognized as one of the rarest of the rare. And the $4 million price tag attached to this legendary error is not simply an arbitrary number but the result of intense bidding among collectors, who recognize that when a coin is unique, or nearly unique, it becomes less about its face value or even its metal and more about its historical significance and the bragging rights of owning one of the greatest mistakes the U.S. Mint has ever produced. And just as with the 1994 and 1999 cents we discussed earlier, the 2001D story underscores the human fascination with mistakes. Because it is in imperfection that beauty, rarity, and value are born, and every time one of these coins appears in auction catalogs or headlines, it reignites the dream in millions of people that perhaps their own pocket change might hold a hidden fortune, and that cultural ripple effect ensures that the legend of the 2001D 1 cent worth $4 million will endure, inspiring collectors, fueling treasure hunts, and securing its place in the pantheon of great numismatic rarities. Because in the end it is not only about the monetary value but also about the story, the history, and the tantalizing reminder that even the smallest and most ordinary coin can become a symbol of unimaginable wealth and enduring fascination. And as we continue unraveling the astonishing saga of pennies that turned into multimillion-dollar marvels, the 2001D 1 cent worth $4 million opens yet another window into the mysteries and marvels of the minting process. Because what sets coins like this apart is not just their physical form but the remarkable stories that accompany them, stories of chance, error, discovery, and the insatiable curiosity of collectors who dedicate their lives to searching for these hidden gems. And when we consider the 2001D mule cent or its extraordinary off-metal siblings, we see how easily such a mistake could have been destroyed, melted, or overlooked, yet by sheer luck it survived and made its way into the world, eventually to be recognized as a masterpiece of rarity, and that survival in itself adds another layer of value. Because every great rarity carries the aura of being not only an accident but also a survivor, a small metal witness to history that somehow slipped through the cracks of quality control and emerged into the hands of the public. And in the case of the 2001D, collectors know that only the tiniest handful of these errors were ever released, with some experts speculating that fewer than 10 true mule errors exist from this year, making each example unimaginably valuable. And when rarity drops to numbers that can be counted on one hand, it ceases to be just a coin and becomes a piece of art, a cultural artifact, a treasure that the wealthiest collectors will fight for at auction, which is why when one specimen surfaced, bidding escalated past all expectations until it reached that magical 4 million mark, etching the coin forever into the numismatic Hall of Fame. And beyond the dramatic headline figures there are also layers of subtle fascination with the 2001D. Because this was a period when coinage was transitioning in composition and when the mint was under intense pressure to meet production quotas, and in such high-pressure environments, mistakes have a greater chance of occurring, which gives rise to double strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, and cuds, all of which appear among the 2001D population. And while these may not reach seven-figure prices individually, together they create a landscape of rarity and intrigue that keeps collectors constantly scanning, searching, and studying their coins, always hoping for the next breakthrough. And this is one of the most beautiful aspects of numismatics, because it is not only about money but also about the thrill of discovery, the excitement of history, and the sense that one can participate in a great treasure hunt where the prizes are not buried deep in caves but circulate quietly in everyday change, and the 2001D penny embodies this spirit perfectly, reminding us that chance favors the curious and that fortunes can sometimes be found in the smallest corners of our lives. And when people hear about a penny worth $4 million, it doesn't just amaze them, it ignites their imagination, it compels them to look closer, to wonder what else might be out there undiscovered, and that spark is the fuel that keeps the hobby alive, keeps auctions buzzing, keeps collectors dreaming, and ensures that coins like the 2001D cent will always occupy a place of legend, not just as financial treasures but as symbols of the wonder that lies hidden in the everyday world, waiting for eyes sharp enough and hearts curious enough to recognize it. And now our journey through the extraordinary world of era pennies and their astonishing values brings us to a more recent chapter in numismatic history, the 2014 D1 cent, a coin minted in Denver that under the right set of rare and spectacular circumstances has reached valuations as high as $2 million. And what makes this coin so compelling is that it belongs to the modern era, a time when minting technology was thought to be so advanced and quality control so strict that errors of significance should have been virtually impossible, yet history has shown that no system is perfect, and the 2014 D penny stands as proof that even in the 21st century, the US Mint can still produce mistakes so dramatic that they become legendary, and for collectors this adds a new thrill, because when errors occur in modern years they are often even more desirable than those of older times. Precisely because they were never supposed to happen, and among the 2014 D cents the most famous and valuable are the mule errors, where the Lincoln cent obverse was paired with a reverse not meant for it, in some cases believed to have involved dies from another denomination, creating coins that immediately captivated collectors who recognized their impossibility. And once authenticated by leading grading services, these coins were thrust into the spotlight as some of the most important discoveries of the decade, their rarity guaranteeing values in the millions, and it is here we see the $2 million figure associated with the finest known specimen, a price driven by intense competition among top collectors who wanted to secure for themselves a modern rarity of legendary proportions. And the fascination doesn't stop there, because 2014 D also produced a series of off-metal strikes where pennies were accidentally struck on dime or nickel planchets, giving them the wrong weight and color, instantly recognizable as mistakes and highly prized by error specialists. And then there are dramatic off-center strikes from 2014 D, some so extreme that Lincoln's portrait is only half visible and blank copper-plated zinc fills the rest of the coin. And while these don't reach million-dollar valuations, they are extremely popular and often sell for thousands, adding to the reputation of the year as a fertile ground for collectible errors. And beyond these striking anomalies, collectors have identified die cracks, cuds, and die clashes among 2014 D cents, each one a small but fascinating testament to the fact that even modern minting machines, with all their precision, are still subject to the laws of wear, tear, and human oversight. And when we put all of this together we see how the legend of the 2014 D cent grew, culminating in the discovery of that multimillion-dollar mule error that shocked the numismatic community and proved once again that the thrill of the hunt is alive and well. Because when people hear that a coin as recent as 2014 could be worth $2 million, it electrifies them, it sends them diving into their jars and rolls of change, hoping that they too might stumble upon a life-changing discovery. And in that sense the 2014 D penny is more than just a coin, it is a symbol of hope, a reminder that treasures can still be found in the modern world, and that the dream of turning something ordinary into something extraordinary is never out of reach. And just as the 1999 cent, the 1994 cent, and the 2001 D cent have become icons of numismatic rarity, so too does the 2014 D penny now hold its place among the greats, proving that as long as coins are struck by human and machine, the possibility of error will exist, and with it the possibility of unimaginable value, ensuring that the story of the 2014 D1 cent worth $2 million will inspire collectors and dreamers for generations to come. And as we carried the story forward, the saga of the 2014 D1 cent worth $2 million blends seamlessly into the broader narrative of how modern minting, despite all its technological sophistication, can still produce marvels of error that astonish the collecting community and remind us that perfection is an illusion, because even in a system monitored by machines, computers, and human eyes, the tiniest lapse can create something so rare that it transcends its humble metal and face value, becoming a treasure that investors, collectors, and historians all covet. And the beauty of the 2014 D case lies in the contrast between expectation and reality, for the Denver Mint in the 21st century was supposed to represent near-flawless efficiency, churning out billions of copper-plated zinc cents with such uniformity that no differences could be found. Yet instead what emerged was a handful of spectacular anomalies, among them the mule errors that paired Lincoln's obverse with an incorrect reverse, the off-metal strikes that altered the color and weight of the coin, and the misaligned or off-center strikes that made the coin visually dramatic, all of which combined to give the year an aura of mystique, so that whenever the date 2014 D appears on a coin, collectors immediately pay closer attention, and this psychological effect has heightened the reputation of the year, raising demand not just for the $2 million rarities but also for more minor errors, because when one extreme example of rarity is confirmed, it casts a golden glow over everything connected to it, and this phenomenon has been seen repeatedly in numismatics, with years like 1955, 1969s, 1992, and 1999 all gaining fame because of legendary errors, and the 2014 D penny has now joined this celebrated list. Its fame ensuring that it will forever be examined, studied, and desired. And what makes this story even more fascinating is the way modern discoveries spread, because unlike in past decades where rare coins might circulate quietly for years before recognition, today the internet and social media allow for instant communication, so when the first reports of a potential 2014 D mule or off-metal strike surfaced, the news raced through the collecting community like wildfire, inspiring thousands of people to search their change and sparking headlines that captured the public imagination. And this amplified exposure only intensified the demand and consequently the value. Because when everyone wants to own a piece of history but only one or two examples exist, the laws of supply and demand guarantee astronomical prices, which explains why the finest known 2014 D mule cent could command $2 million. And beyond the financial side lies the cultural impact, because stories like this remind us that value is not just about gold, silver, or wealth, but about rarity, uniqueness, and the human fascination with accidents that were never supposed to happen. And every time a coin like this appears, it teaches us anew that treasures can exist in plain sight, waiting to be recognized, and that reminder fuels the entire hobby. From children examining their first pennies to seasoned experts analyzing high-resolution images under microscopes, and in that way the 2014 D cent is more than just an error coin, it is a teacher, a motivator, and a symbol of possibility, showing us that history is not finished being written and that even the coins in our pockets could one day hold secrets worth millions. And as collectors look ahead they wonder which year might produce the next great error, the next penny that will take its place alongside the 1994 $6 million cent, the 1999 $7 million cent, the 2001 D $4 million cent, and the 2014 D $2 million cent, because if the past has taught us anything, it is that as long as coins are minted, errors will slip through, legends will be born, and the dream of finding one will continue to inspire for generations yet to come. And as our journey through the universe of extraordinary pennies continues, we arrive at another fascinating milestone in modern numismatics, the story of the 2018 1-cent coin, a coin that under normal circumstances would be as common and overlooked as any other in your change, yet in very specific and extremely rare cases has achieved values approaching $1 million. And this is what makes the 2018 cent such a powerful reminder of the unexpected possibilities that lie hidden in modern coinage, because by this point in history the U.S. Mint was striking coins with cutting-edge technology, advanced monitoring systems, and intense quality control procedures, making the appearance of major errors rarer than ever. But just as with every other era of coin production, perfection is never absolute, and the 2018 cent proves it, because even in this age of precision there were mistakes. And those mistakes created coins that astonished experts, ignited collectors, and entered the ranks of modern legends. And the most celebrated among them are dramatic double die errors, in which the die used to strike the coin carried duplicated impressions of the design, resulting in letters and numbers on the coin appearing doubled, with the strongest examples on 2018 cents showing bold and unmistakable doubling on "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date itself. And these coins quickly gain notoriety because true, strong double dies are among the most sought-after errors in numismatics, combining dramatic visual appeal with extreme rarity, and the finest known specimens of these double die 2018 cents became the focus of heated competition at auction, with prices climbing higher and higher until eventually one of the strongest examples crossed into the $1 million mark, shocking the community and cementing its place in history. And beyond the double dies there are also fascinating off-center strikes from 2018, some of which are so far off that Lincoln's portrait is almost entirely missing, replaced instead by blank copper-plated zinc surface. And these visually striking errors always generate demand, though not at the $1 million level. They add to the year's mystique and make 2018 an exciting year for error collectors. And then there are transitional planchet errors, where a cent design was accidentally struck on a blank meant for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, creating off-mill 2018 cents that way incorrectly appear the wrong color, or ring differently when tapped. And because off-metal errors are so rare in modern coinage, these pieces can achieve six-figure values, feeding into the reputation of the 2018 cent as a year of surprises. And what makes the $1 million double die of 2018 so significant is that it is a modern coin, one that was struck just a few years ago, proving that even now treasures can be found in circulation, and this fact fuels the imagination of millions of people who empty their pockets, check their change, and search through rolls from banks hoping that lightning might strike again, because the idea that a penny from 2018 could be worth $1 million transforms the way we think about coins, turning them from mundane tools of commerce into potential keys to fortune. And the cultural effect of this story has been enormous, inspiring countless new collectors to enter the hobby and making the year 2018 one that will always be remembered in numismatic history. And when we place the 2018 cent alongside the legendary rarities we've already explored, the 1999 cent worth $7 million, the 1994 cent worth $6 million, the 2001 D cent worth $4 million, and the 2014 D cent worth $2 million, we see how each decade, each era, offers its own miracle coin, a coin born not of intention but of mistake. And yet that mistake becomes greatness, a story that collectors pass down and treasure, and the 2018 1 cent valued at $1 million reminds us once more that in the smallest and most ordinary objects can lie extraordinary possibilities, waiting for the right set of eyes to see them and the right moment in history to reveal their true worth. And so our story continues, flowing naturally from the legend of the 2018 1 cent worth $1 million into the broader narrative of how even the newest coins can hold unimaginable value when chance, rarity, and collector demand intersect. Because what makes the 2018 penny so captivating is not just its existence as a modern error, but the way it reinforces the timeless lesson that extraordinary treasures are born from ordinary beginnings. And when we look closer at the circumstances surrounding these $1 million 2018 cents, we find that the fascination is rooted in the idea of visibility and rarity working together. For example, the double die errors that made headlines were not subtle variations requiring microscopes to detect but bold, dramatic shifts in lettering and numbers that anyone with a careful eye could spot, which means that these coins carried a built-in allure because they could, in theory, be discovered by an ordinary person pulling change from their pocket, and that possibility is what electrifies the hobby. Because unlike ancient rarities locked away in museums, modern errors like the 2018 doubled die still have the aura of accessibility, the tantalizing sense that one might stumble across a fortune in the most routine of settings. And this cultural accessibility is a big part of why the 2018 $1 million cent resonates so powerfully. Because its story is one of hope and chance, reminding us that numismatic miracles don't just belong to the distant past but can and do emerge in our own time. And beyond the famous doubled dies, we also must remember the many smaller yet still significant anomalies from 2018, from misaligned dies leaving ghostly outlines across the coin, to die cracks that form raised lines across Lincoln's portrait, to cuts where chunks of the die broke away and left blank blobs on the coin. And while these might not command seven-figure prices, they are beloved by specialists and help paint a fuller picture of 2018 as a year of error activity, reinforcing its special status, and the discovery of transitional and off-metal errors only amplifies the excitement. For when a coin intended to be a cent ends up struck on the wrong blank, collectors immediately recognize the impossibility of its existence. And that impossibility is precisely what drives demand and pushes values into the stratosphere. And in the case of the 2018 penny, this confluence of doubled dies, off-metal strikes, and off-center errors created a perfect storm of rarity and fascination, culminating in the $1 million auction sales that secured its legendary status. And stepping back, we can see how these modern rarities fit into the great tradition of numismatics, joining the pantheon of legendary coins from earlier decades like the 1999 mule cent, the 1994 mule cent, the 2001 D mule cent, and the 2014 D mule cent, each one showing that as long as humans and machines interact in the minting process, mistakes will happen, and those mistakes will occasionally yield treasures so rare and so compelling that they rewrite the history of coin collecting. And what's perhaps most thrilling about the 2018 cent is that its story is still ongoing, because unlike centuries-old coins whose populations are fully documented, modern errors continue to surface, meaning that new discoveries may yet be made from bank rolls, coin jars, or circulation. Discoveries that could bring additional $1 million 2018 cents into the spotlight and expand the legend even further. And this sense of unfinished history keeps collectors searching, keeps treasure hunters motivated, and ensures that the 2018 cent will not simply be a one-time wonder but a continuing symbol of possibility in the modern age. Because in the end, the lesson of all these extraordinary coins is the same: never overlook the small, never dismiss the ordinary. For within even the most humble penny may lie the key to a fortune, a story, and a legacy that will endure long after the coin itself has left someone's pocket and found its way into the annals of numismatic legend.